What a show you're going to have, Scott. Both the president speaking and Carl Icahn. Can't wait for that. Meantime, the Republican battle with President Obama over funding the government and the new health care law will continue to play out in the coming days. We're joined this morning by the House Republican Policy Chair, Congressman James Lankford of Oklahoma. Congressman, good to have you with us. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
You've been quoted today as saying, I don't even know how to guess in terms of where negotiations go from here. I assume no more clarity at this moment as when you were quoted this morning?
No, it's exactly where the Senate is. It's a little ironic that last night, the last vote that we took as a House was say, let's go to conference with the Senate. Let's sit down and actually get in a room, talk to each other. And then this morning, for some bizarre reason, they tabled that and said, no, we don't want to even talk with the House. I can't even begin to guess then what do we do if we're not actually going to sit down and talk about things, because obviously we have serious issues that we want to address. They don't want to talk back to us, and so we're stuck. It's incredibly childish.
What are you telling members of the party, at least, who say, we made our point, and maybe it is time to start talking about a clean CR? You're nowhere near that.
No, I don't think we're anywhere near that. The challenge of it is there are real issues that have to be addressed, and I've had lots of folks from the Senate that have said back to me, hey, let's just deal with this at another time. And we've said for the last 3 years, we've sent over 40 bills, one at a time, to try to raise different issues with the Affordable Care Act. Every one of those have been ignored, and now there's a sense of, well, we don't want to do it now as well. Let's just keep going on so we can ignore it in the future as well. We have to deal with some of the real issues. I know there are folks that are real fans of the Affordable Care Act, but there are also some very real problems that we want to raise and address and deal with them.
Representative, the Potomac Research Group this morning said usually whichever party is most united is the party that comes out on top. Given the comments that we heard, or the tweet we saw from Representative Scott Riggle an hour ago where he says it's time for a clean CR, that's your Republican colleague from Virginia, sure. But the fact that you're saying no way, that would suggest the party, if anything, continues to fragment, not pull together. Isn't there a risk there that means you're not going to be able to achieve what any in the party would like to see at this point?
Yeah, all of this is a risk. None of us wanted to go to a shutdown. This is not what we have. And as your viewers know very well from just calling and interacting what's happening, this is really not a government shutdown. This is a government slowdown. All functions are still out there, just everything's slower. There are workers that are in my office that are furloughed today in offices all over the country, but basic operations are still continuing. We funded the military. We funded civilians working with the military. Those are continuing on as normal. So we have this slowdown that is occurring, that people are aware that there's a problem. Now the issue is, how do we get out of this? I would say the first thing we need to do is actually sit down and have conversation. Let's start working things out rather than just ignoring each other, where the Senate's talking to itself, the House is talking to itself, and no one's talking to each other.
We've all seen some of the national poll numbers that look at whether Americans are blaming Republicans or the president. But I wonder, the ratio of your own constituents who say you're doing the right thing versus the wrong thing, is anyone pressuring you in your own district of Oklahoma to move past this?
Well, here's an interesting stat for you. Last night I had a telephone town hall from my office during the middle of all the conversations where we called thousands of people across the district. Nonpartisan, random numbers all across the district. Had a couple thousand people that are on the call, did a flash poll on the call, and I asked simply the question, do you have the opinion that I should keep negotiating, even if it means a government slowdown, to deal with some of the issues of the Affordable Care Act, or should we just do a clean CR? In my district, 74% of the people in that poll said keep negotiating to deal with at least some of the issues of the Affordable Care Act. 26% said no, do a clean CR. Now, I understand that's not a scientific, that's a flash sampling across my poll, but that's pretty stark.
Yeah, 74 to 26 is those are poll numbers, scientific or not, that will get your attention.
Right.
How do you think they feel if we get closer to the 17th?
Yeah, that's the great unknown. Obviously, we have a debt ceiling that's hanging out there as well. There are a lot of large issues we have to deal with right now. We have to deal with major entitlement reforms. We have to deal with the sequester still. So there are all these financial things that are all piled up here together. Our hope was to be able to deal with this, have it dealt with, and then to be able to move on. And quite frankly, we felt like our last proposal was pretty reasonable. It just put members of Congress and the White House into Obamacare, and it gave the individual protections from the penalties for the first year, the same as businesses have. That was our last proposal. We thought that's fairly straightforward. Right. For folks that say, you want this giant thing, that's actually pretty small. And even that, the Senate just tabled it and said, we won't discuss it.
At the same time, Congressman, the new Quinnipiac poll out this morning, I'm sure you've seen it. It talks about how American voters reject the GOP shutdown strategy by a 3-to-1 margin, and that Dems are up 9 points in the 2014 congressional race.
Yep, all those things, the dynamics are out there discussion. The Senate has to evaluate how long politically they can hold out and say we refuse to even talk to the House. The House has to be able to step out and say what's a reasonable proposal that the American people will accept. We feel like it's reasonable. Obviously, most of this happened last night. People right now are just talking about shutdown or slow down. They don't really know what the last proposal was. The last proposal was pretty simple. Put members of Congress in the White House into the exchanges and give the American people, the individuals, a 1-year delay in the penalties, the same as businesses have been given. So it's a 1-year, simple, clean on the delay of just the penalties, and put members of Congress in the White House into it. How hard is that?
Well, we're going to find out how hard it is when the president speaks in just about 30 minutes. Congressman, thanks so much for your time. Interesting insight from your district, too. James Lankford of Oklahoma.